Hello everyone, and welcome to our discussion on doing business in Mozambique. We're privileged today to welcome Joao Martins, who is our leader for PwC in Mozambique, and he's based in Maputo. Joao, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And perhaps just to kick off, can we start off with your advice to new investors? So I don't have any interest or investment in Mozambique, and I want to enter into Mozambique from somewhere else in Africa or anywhere in the rest of the world. So some of the things that points of advice that you would give me.
I would say that the main key issues are, first, the strategy of entry. How do you enter into the Mozambican market? That has real big importance. Structure. How do you structure your investment? Is it through own capital? Is it shareholders? Or is it financed through banking? Then human capital. What human capital do you have on the ground, and what needs will you have in terms of human capital, especially if you need to bring expatriates across due to the limitations that we have by law. Then we also think it's important that you take a special time with the taxes, the tax regime, the legal system. It's very different from the South African legal system, and also a special attention to licensing. What licenses do you need in order to operate in Mozambique? And lastly, I would say that you really need to have a very good relationship with your stakeholders, that is government, associations, private associations, but also and above all, make sure that you pick and choose the right consultants to assist you, and not just any consultant saying that they have very strong connections with those who decide, because usually that is a recipe for disaster.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's fast forward, and let's say I'm an established business and I've been in Mozambique for 5 years already. We're in the middle of another economic downturn. Things are not as rosy as they used to be. What words of wisdom do you have for someone who's already established in the Mozambican market?
I think the key word is transform, restructure your business. We are currently living a very difficult phase in Mozambique in terms of business. Not only business, but also political situation that is very tense with military confrontation between the opposition and the ruling party. So what you have to do is, you are there already. Don't take the wrong idea or the wrong step of closing down operations and moving back. Because Mozambique will not be at war. That will not happen. And Mozambique will actually develop further. That's the point. So you have to make sure that you restructure, you transform from fragile to agile, your business meets the real needs at this stage, and if need be, slow down on your operations, but do not close down. So make sure you restructure, make sure you become agile from a fragile situation, which is the current situation. But I don't think I would recommend shutting down the companies, because the future is very important. I mean, the IMF, the World Bank, all the international private bankers say that Mozambique will grow at rates of 20 to 25%, which makes sense. Because just to develop the oil and gas fields up in the north of the country, we're talking about $30 billion in the period of 5 years to 10 years. You're talking about needs of 10,000 people to go and actually do the works on the ground. So it is important to remain patient through these times. If you have to restructure by way of cutting costs, so do it, but do not suspend your presence in Mozambique or terminate your presence in Mozambique, because it will cost you probably the double when you come back. Double the fees, double the licenses, because then Mozambique will be on the peak again. And of course, like we saw it in the past, prices will tend to double or treble in all senses, actually.
But perhaps following on from that, which again I think is more also a kind of symptom of the current environment, many investors into Mozambique seem to be struggling a lot with getting currency out. Yes. What is the current position regarding exchange control in Mozambique?
Yes, we are facing a very serious problem in terms of our international reserves. From year to year, we lost around $1.3 billion of our international reserves, and this is a huge impact to a small economy, because we always have to bear in mind Mozambique is still a small economy. Yes, we have been growing at 8 to 9%, but from a lower basis. So our international reserves are not so strong. So this erosion of the international reserves were due to the reduction of foreign investment, 75% decrease of foreign investment in 2015, reduction of donor support to the budget state, donors have been cutting their direct support to the budget by 30 to 35%. Due to political reasons, corruption, lack of transparency of management of the funds, and then of course lack of any transactions that would generate capital gains taxation in favor of the Mozambican revenue services. So all in all, these three main areas, or these three main categories of issues have generated this erosion of the international reserves in terms of forex in Mozambique, and it has been very difficult. Mozambican authorities are putting severe restrictions, more and more so, and although the law was in place 2 or 3 years ago, only now they're actually using the instruments that were ruled or regulated in those laws now, because it serves the purposes of reducing the outflows of forex.
Okay. Well, perhaps if I can change the subject just very slightly to the question of special regimes and how they interact with the whole multitude of rules that we do have in Mozambique. So we know we have specific immigration rules, income tax rules, exchange control, but some of these special regimes overlay or override some of these rules. And can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yeah, indeed. You have two categories of special regimes. Those that are already established in the law, and we're talking about special economic zones, rapid development zones, industrial free zones. These are actually to boost the development of certain geographies of the country. Okay, especially, for example, the rapid development zones. It's to actually boost certain areas of the country which are very undeveloped. Then we have the other category, which is the special regimes which are granted by the Mozambican state under a concession agreement, such as concession agreements to develop the oil and gas fields, the mining fields. Why? Because this is a way of also giving to the investors confidence, in one hand. Secondly, also giving the investors the possibility of accessing a more flexible regime. Because otherwise, in order to invest such magnitude of funds and in order to bring so many expatriates into Mozambique under the normal regime, it would be completely impossible. And this is actually built on the good experiences we had with previous mega projects that we did, the aluminium smelter plants, the gas that is actually pumped to South Africa, the pipeline that was built from Maputo to South Africa. So those projects always had special regimes, and they worked, you see.
Okay, very interesting. Perhaps maybe just to close off, Joao, any good news? So maybe a little bit of a comment on economic outlook for the future. I know you're going to say there are going to be one or two negative things, but maybe add in some good news or opportunities that you see on the horizon as well.
Yes, I think that we're going to go back into the growth mode, let's say, in the next 18 to 24 months, once we have resolved our domestic affairs. As I said, international conditions of the market are there, and we cannot change that, those macroeconomic international factors. But we have to sort out our domestic internal issues, such as controlling the inflation, controlling the currency. We have to also make sure that we control the political tension and all of that. But I see a lot of movement in very, very important areas such as real estate development. We're seeing more and more development on the real estate, and we see a lot of interest of retailers. And these two are the best signs for you to judge where the economy is driving to. And I think that we're going to have a fantastic year. I usually say to my teams, I usually say to my clients, and I usually say to the Mozambican stakeholders, and not only, that the tide will eventually turn. This tide that we're running right now will turn, and I'm sure we're going to go back to the 9%, 10% growth rates that we experienced in the past. I'm very optimistic.
Well, thank you very much for those words of wisdom on doing business in Mozambique. That was Joao Martins, our leader for PwC in Mozambique.
Thank you, Osman.